Well, hi there. My name is Bruce Weeks, and I am from the North Georgia mountains here between Ellijay and Blue Ridge, Georgia. And just coming to you today to share a couple of interesting things that I found. A little background story. In 2020, I was overweight. Um, I went into the hospital thinking that I had bronchitis or some type of infection. And short story is I got there. It was in the middle of the COVID deal, and uh, wound up with acute heart failure. And so they called it acute. Well, they didn't say chronic; they said acute. And so anyhow, I didn't know what that meant. I just knew it was heart failure. And so it got me to looking at some things. And of course, I went through the whole regime of, the defibrillator that I had to wear, through several medications that I wound up having to take, about six in all, which is less than a lot of people did. And basically told me to cut out my sodium, my salt, those things out of my diet, watch what I ate. I was 230 pounds and plus going into the hospital. I'm only 5'4", so I'm not a big guy by no means, but I was rotund to say the least. It did make me do better. I went for 2 or 3 years there that I felt better. I did better. I did cut sodium and salt out of my diet. I quit using the salt shaker on everything that there was, and began to use some seasonings, but I was real careful to read the sodium content. One of the things, though, that become a discovery to me as time went on, as I began to slowly but gradually put weight back on. And I noticed that it didn't matter how much I tried to uh, get a handle on it, that I could not seem to keep my weight down. And of course, um, I had changed some habits. I wasn't quite um, doing the sodas and the soft drinks and such as I was before, because before I was doing sodas, I was doing a lot of sweet snacks, and then I was doing, of course, the salt on everything, the bad stuff, and so we did change the diet somewhat. But I had continued to drink the cokes and occasionally get the candy bar if I got to feeling weak, or sit down at night, before I went to bed and have some ice cream. What never really dawned on me was that, and nobody ever said anything to me about it, even the hospital or the doctor or anything like that. All they would tell me is watch your diet, cut the sodium out, eat more vegetables, stay away from fried foods, that sort of thing. But nobody really ever uh, said anything to me about the carbohydrates, the sugar, the ingredients in these foods that weren't good for you, the starches. They did not tell me that I could not eat starchy vegetables. They just told me to stay away from the sodium from the salt. So fast forward up to last Christmas of 2024. It's December. It's Christmas Eve. I've got the family around. I have gained um, a considerable amount of my weight back. I wasn't big up to the 230 plus that I was before. And you got to remember now, some of you might say, well, 230 is not that big. But you got to remember, I'm only 5'4" at best. I might be 5'3 3/4. I don't know. We may be shrinking some. But anyway, I gained a lot of weight back. I did not feel well. My family was here. We were doing Christmas Eve, and I felt terrible. I just felt terrible. I was lethargic. I didn't have no energy. and I had gained a lot of weight back. And so I was just slow. And I got to thinking about that Christmas Eve. I thought, I really don't, I kind of humorously thought, I really don't know any old fat people. And when I say old, I'm talking up in the 80s, on up in those years. And I had a great uncle that lived here in LJ, who every time he would see me, he would warn me and tell me that I was headed down the road my daddy was headed down, and that if I didn't do something about it, that I was going to die an early death. And so I didn't want that. I want to see my grandkids grow up. I want to see everybody happy and everything. So I began to pray about what to do. And of course, the Lord didn't give me a new revelation. He reiterated something that I already knew. He pointed out the soft drinks, the Coca-Colas. He pointed out the candy bars. He pointed out the ice cream that I had been having most every night before I would go to bed. And so that began my journey. So I stopped drinking the Cokes. I laid off the candy bars, and I laid off the ice cream. I didn't have any of that. And I kind of instantly saw the scale begin to fall. And the scale actually fell pretty quick. And so I got my attention. I got on YouTube and I started Googling around about weight loss and stuff like that. I ran across a guy over in Cumming, Georgia, who's a chiropractor. He's also somewhat of a nutritionist. And I began to listen to him, and he began to talk about what it would be like to go without sugar in your body for 30 days. And so that began me on a journey of researching sugar, glucose, fructose, even the fake sugars. And then that led to me beginning to read books and study about sugar and carbohydrates and starches. And the more I began to read that, the more I began to realize that, hey, it's not just the Coca-Colas, and it's not just the candy bars, and it's not just the ice cream. There is still a lot of things that I'm eating that is hurting me. I did not realize how many carbohydrates was included even in some vegetables and beans and peas, which I love, and potatoes. And I've never seen a potato I didn't like. But I began to look at all of that and examine all that. So slowly but surely, I began to cut things like peanut butter sandwiches. I eliminated bread out of my diet. I took the bread out. I'd always heard this old saying that if you'll do away with the three white things in your life, in your diet, that you'll lose weight. And that was sugar and salt and flour. And so I took that and I ran with it. So I eliminated the Coca-Colas, the candy bars, the Milky Ways, the ice cream. I put the bread back. I quit the pasta. I quit the spaghetti. I forget all these carbohydrated foods. I stopped eating potatoes and such, and I began to see the weight just fall off. I mean, fall off. Well, a quick fast forward to today. I went from 213 pounds on Christmas Eve of 2024 down to 153, 155, bouncing kind of in between those two right there this Christmas Eve of 2025. And we are now the second day of January of 2026. So I have lost a total of 60 pounds over that year. And I did not, start out that strict. I slowly went into beginning to curb and take things out that I found out was not good for me, that they weren't good for me. I had a friend of mine who had done a carnivore diet for a while. They had told me about it, a couple of years ago, and I didn't know what to think about that. I, I thought, well, I love meat, but I don't know that I could, do that. And so he tried that, and it worked somewhat for him. But I think he found out that um, maybe it was too quick of an approach for him to do something like that. So he backed off a little bit. I was telling him one day what I'd been doing. He asked me, he said, how you've been losing this weight, what you've been doing. And I told him what I'd been doing. And he said, okay, well, you're more of probably a paleo type of diet. And I guess I was, I was still eating salads. And now my salad it's stripped down nothing. It's basically lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower, and some salad dressing on top of it, maybe some hot sauce. I love hot sauce. And so went with that. And he said, well, you're probably more of a paleo than you are anything. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I am, because I don't know nothing really about this. I'm just on this journey of trying to lose this weight, and what I'm doing seems to be working for me. I feel better. At one time, I couldn't even get a pair of 42 pants fastened, and I'm sitting here comfortably today in a pair of 32s and got room to spare. So I have at least lost 10 inches around my waist, probably more, because I would have to suck it up to get the 42s to fasten. I went from a 2XL shirt down to a medium. I can get comfortably in a medium shirt, button up, or t-shirt. And so that's done real good with that. So I have been pretty strict with what I did, not just totally, black and white with all of it. I have had the occasional snack, a banana pudding or something like that, but it hadn't been anything I've done from day to day. That might be a once a week, or once a 2 weeks, or even a once a month, a little treat that I gave myself. And so that's worked out real well. But I just have been amused as I've watched other people and watched what they do. I've paid attention to what people look like, the puffiness of their face, and the layers of flesh, the fat, which I've seen come off of myself. And I began to look at other people. Are they these visible signs of visceral fat? Is there these visible signs of insulin resistance? People, that are taking all kinds of meds to try to assist weight loss. Is there these visible signs? And that is yes. The puffiness of the face. That's a couple of signs of visceral fat, insulin resistance, such as that. There's probably 70%, I think I read, of people in the United States that are some form of insulin resistance. And so that in itself is just kind of amazing when you sit and you think about it. But I've been trying to help some people and help my church. I've been, kind of coaching some people and stuff like that. But I got to thinking about what we spend. Somebody says, and now for the most part, I am pretty much carnivore. I eat very little of anything other than meat. I would post some pictures if I figured out how to do that yet. Maybe I can figure out the comments of this and maybe post some pictures in the comments of some of the carnivore meals that I eat. And maybe I'll be able to post a before and after picture from the Christmas Eves of 24 and 25 and just let you see how much of a difference it has made. But I have begun to read labels on foods and really pay attention to serving sizes and the amount of carbohydrates there is. So the rule is this rule of thumb that for every 4 grams of a carbohydrate, then you count that as 1 teaspoon of sugar. In other words, it's like putting a teaspoon of sugar into your body. A canned Coca-Cola, 12-ounce canned Coca-Cola, around about 9 to 10 teaspoons of sugar. Let me step away here for a minute and get something. So I made this this little example here of what that would be, of how we evaluate that. So I didn't get my 9. No, I didn't, but I got my 10. So a canned Coca-Cola is something like 39 grams of sugar. And so, or carbohydrates, 39 grams of carbohydrates. If it was 40, 1 gram ain't going to make or break it. But this is what you would get. You would get 10 teaspoons. That's 10 teaspoons in 1 can Coca-Cola. Now that's nuts when you think about that. Now, what if I stop at the store and I get me a canned Coca-Cola? I'm going to get about 140 calories in a canned Coca-Cola, and I'm going to get roughly 9 to 10 teaspoons of sugar in that 1 can of Coca-Cola. Well, let's say, because I loved potato chips. I absolutely loved potato chips, especially Doritos. I love Doritos. So let's say I stop and get a bag of Doritos. It's humorous because I've heard people say, well, I couldn't afford to eat meat, not like you do. Well, I'm going to tell you, you pay a lot more for junk food. Let's say that I stop and I get that Coca-Cola with that 10 teaspoons of sugar. And then I decide I'm going to grab me a bag of Doritos. So I get this 2 5/8. Couldn't be 2 1/2. Got to be 2 5/8. Little bag of Doritos right here. Now, the serving on this says that there is 2 1/2 servings of Doritos in this bag. Now, this bag is not big at all. It is 2 5/8 of an ounce. And so 2 1/2 servings. So let's look and see what we get out of that. If we smash these up, see this little sandwich bag I've got right here? That is your 2 5/8 ounces of Doritos, smashed up, put in a bag, just to show you, because when you buy this bag, you're buying a bag full of air, very little in the bottom. You smash it up and it will fit in 1/2 of a sandwich bag. Now, here's something interesting about this. Let's read the nutritional facts of this. So in 1 serving, you see the calorie count? Look at this. In 1 serving, and there's 2 1/2 servings in this little bag. In just 1 serving, that's 150 calories. The whole bag. If you sit and eat the whole bag, and listen, if I bought one of these, I wasn't going to eat half of it and then set it down the seat and say, I want to eat the rest. No, I ate the whole bag. So you take the 140 calories that I got from the Coca-Cola, the 10 teaspoons of sugar, you add the 390 calories from this bag. Your calorie count, where are you at with that? I mean, you're already 600 calories, something around that. So then we take a look at the carbohydrate count. The carbohydrate count for this bag of Doritos, and this is per serving. This is not the whole bag. For one serving size, the total carb is 17 grams. 17 grams of carbohydrate. So how many times will four go into 17? Well, they go 4, right? So 4 teaspoons of sugar. So per serving size, remember, there's only 2.5 servings here. So per serving size, and we'll call it 16, is 4 teaspoons of sugar. So if you say 2.5, then that's 4 plus 2. And also, out of this bag of Doritos, you get 10 teaspoons of sugar. So between a canned Coke and 2 5/8 ounces of Doritos, you have gotten 2 of these. You have had 20 teaspoons of sugar, and that's for the Doritos. Not to mention this list of ingredients right here, which I'm not going to read, but if you'll just stop long enough and look in the store, and you'll see that there are tons of ingredients in here. And if you can't identify them and you can't pronounce them and you couldn't spell them with somebody putting a gun to your head, you probably don't want to fool with it. So that's the Doritos. Let's take something that people like a lot. I like them. I've eaten a lot of them. Funyuns. Good old Funyuns. Good old onion flavored rings. Onion flavored rings. Cooked in all this wonderful seed oil. 2 servings per bag. $2.69. $2.69. Do you know that a pound of hamburger meat, good hamburger meat, is about $4.50 to $5 a pound? The good stuff at the grocery store here in Georgia. So you have spent, for 2 ounces of Funyuns, you have spent half of what you could get a pound of hamburger meat for. Get the math, get that. So let's take a look at the nutrition. And by the way, this is two servings. You can see how much wound up in the bag after it's crushed up out of this. So you're paying $2.69 for that much. And that looks big, but now it don't look so big, does it? $2.69 for a bag of gas station Funyuns. 2 ounces. 2 ounces. Now let's take a look at the nutrition here. There's 2 servings per container. You might want to just take a gander at that and then stop and just and take a look and say, hey, I'm going to snapshot that. I see there's 19 grams of carb. There's more carbohydrates in this than there was the Doritos. So there's almost per serving. There's almost 5 teaspoons of sugar, according to the carbohydrate count. The carbohydrate count on one serving is 19 grams. And so you multiply that twice, that gives you 28. Or yes, no, I can't do math. It gives you 38. It gives you 38, almost 40 grams for this. So you're just shy of that 10. You're just shy of that 10 teaspoons of sugar in this whole bag. Let's take a look at the calorie count. The calorie count for this is 130 per serving. There's 2 servings per bag. They're saying per package is 270. I don't know where they get the extra 10 at, but they've got it. It says the serving size is about 13 pieces. The total carbohydrate count of this is 19 grams. That's almost 10 teaspoons of sugar. Add your 140 calorie can 12-ounce Coke at 9 to 10 teaspoons of sugar for that canned Coke. And listen, I don't know of anybody really that drinks canned Cokes like I did. Most people's getting a 20-ounce, which is about 240 calories. And I don't know what the gram count is, but it's up there. Also, the Funyuns, if you go and you read the ingredients of the Funyuns, also there's a list of probably, I don't know, I haven't counted them, but I'd say safe to say 15 ingredients, and probably maybe even 20. And there is all kinds of sugars and starches and stuff that turns to sugar, and starch separators, and just all kinds of stuff in these Funyuns that are terrible for you. So once again, you get a canned Coke and you get a bag of Funyuns, you're going to get twice this amount sitting there in your car, snacking out on a bag of chips. I don't hardly know anybody that just eats a bag of chips and drinks a Coca-Cola. Usually there's always more, or at least there was with me. Here is probably the wholesome. Now, you remember the old saying, when I was growing up, they advertised Lay's potato chips, and they said nobody can eat just one. Well, it's true. They've got stuff in there that makes you want more. The salts, the oils, the smoothness, and all that. So look, this is 2.5 ounces of Lay's classic potato chips, $2.69 for the bag. That bag of chips cost you more than half of what a pound of good nutrient-dense ground beef would cost you. Here is what you get when you don't get the bag of air and you get it chopped up. So when you've ate it, and that's not a very good picture, but it's not that big, and it says that is 2.5 servings. So there's 2.5 servings right here. So let's take a look at the nutrition of that, of a serving size. So we've got carbohydrates. 15 grams. We'll come down on this a little bit. So we're 1 shy of 16. We're 1 gram shy, just 1 gram shy of 4 teaspoons of sugar. You know, you can see I've got 16 on this little bottle. 16 grams equals 4 teaspoons of sugar. So we've got 15 in this. We're just tad shy of that right there. But in this bag, because they've got it worded different, it may look a little better, but in this bag, and nobody eats just one. Remember, nobody can eat just one. When you sit down in your car, you're eating this bag. I don't care who you are. If it's me, I'm eating this bag. I am not going to take 2 or 3 chips out of here and call it done. No, that carbohydrate makes you want to eat more. So here we go. 2.5 servings per bag, 160 calories. And I don't really count calories. I count carbohydrates because the calories will lie to you. But check this out. 2.5 ounces of Lay's potato chips gives you what? 400 calories in this one bag. It gives you 400 calories, and it comes just shy of giving you another 10 grams or 40 grams, 10 teaspoons of sugar right there. No wonder we're overweight. No wonder we have heart disease. No wonder we have hardening of the arteries. No wonder we have all these clogged hearts from all these sugars and starches and carbohydrates and the stuff that's this. The only plus that I can see out of this, and this is so far in my research, this, out of these three that I've got here today, this is probably the most healthiest. And I'll tell you why. Because it says, and it's not healthy because it's cooked in seed oils, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 ingredients in this. I've got potatoes, which are cooked in vegetable oil. And it gives a choice, a canola, soybean, and or sunflower oil, and salt. So this, believe it or not, and none of it is good for you. None of it is healthy. But out of these three, the Lay's Classic made with real potatoes, this is the cleanest of these. The Funyuns, I love it. I love the crunch. I love to eat them. Love the crunch, although I haven't had none in a long time and not going to have any. This is definitely a lot. How much is a Coca-Cola? So you stop at a gas station, just looking at it from a financial situation. Let's say you get a 20-ounce Coke or a 20-ounce Diet Mountain Dew or a 20-ounce, Pepsi, whatever you want to get. You spent $3 on that. I mean, that's $3. They put $2.69 on, but by the time you pay the tax and all, and then they throw that thing at you. It says if you'll buy two, you get $4.50 or whatever. They're making money, believe me. But if you buy that 20 ounce, that's $3. And then you buy a bag of these. They just got these across the board at the gas station. They're all $2.69 a piece. But in all reality, you spent $6. You spent $6 on 20 teaspoons of sugar, and about an hour or two later, because of the carbohydrates, which is that sugar, you're going to be wanting something to eat again. And that's just the way it is. I know I've played around with this. I went one day to a restaurant, and I'd been eating all meat there, and I told the waitress that I wanted an order of fries, and she brought me an order of fries with my meat, and I ate that order of fries, which I had not had potatoes probably in 6 or 7 months. And I'd been eyeballing them every time we ate with anybody. I was looking at them French fries. But I had held back. But I thought, I'm just going to treat myself here a little bit, and I'll have me order of fries and try it out. I ate the fries. Less than 2 hours later, I was hungry again and wanting something to eat. And that's the first time that had happened like that, because I've been going to this restaurant and just ordering all meat and unsweet iced tea with no sugar in it. And I'd be satisfied, or, I'd be satiated and satisfied, and I'd eat lunch, and I would not eat again till the next morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'd get up and make me some eggs and some sausage or some hog jowls or something such as that. And then I would eat that, and I wouldn't be hungry. But I have noticed that every time that I have indulged in a carbohydrate, a starchy, sugary treat, or whatever it is, 2 hours later, I'm sitting there and I am hungry again. So just a little bit of something I wanted to shoot there. I've been trying to help some folks, been trying to coach a couple of folks, that reached out to me wanting to lose some weight because they had seen it coming off of me. And so, if I can be a help to you, leave the comments there. We'll do some more evaluations. I've been trying to help people in my church that I pastor and trying to get them to look at this from a health, nutrition side as well as a monetary, financial side. We spend a lot of money on stuff that is no good for us, that we could take that money and invest it into ourselves and come out for the better for it. You'll never have a better investment than you do in yourself, and that is a fact. But anyway, if I can help you in any way, this is Bruce Weeks, and I'm in the North Georgia mountains, and if you'll reach out to me in the comments or whatever, I will try to share with you or help you or pray for you or whatever it is that you would like to do. And we appreciate you. God bless you. And we love you, and we'll catch you on one of these again.